Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
What is up, Tag Me In Bro universe? Happy Wednesday, even though for me it's very late on a Wednesday. We have had quite the week of wrestling. I mean, here it's just, it's the middle of July. We're on our kick up to SummerSlam, the biggest event of the summer. I am personally waiting for the countdown to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 because I will be there, and I'm very, very excited about that. But yeah, between the pay-per-view on Sunday, between Raw on Monday with the stipulation about Brock Lesnar, to last night's episode of SmackDown, it's been a really exciting and really good week, and we cannot wait to talk about it. And if you guys can't wait to talk about it with us, you should go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. That way you won't miss 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content. We do fan polls, we do a prediction series, we do reaction episodes. So I know Joe and John just did their episode about how they felt about Extreme Rules, so go and listen to that. But now I hope everyone is excited for the show because it is about to go down in a big way. If you're new to the show, then as you can probably guess, we are going to spend today, tomorrow, and every day talking about wrestling. So first things first, we cover our SmackDown speed through, where we will give you guys the most important bits of last night's show. We'll give you all of our analysis. After that, we've got our Hi to the People segment, where we want to talk to you guys to find out more about your views on a different topic for each week. This week, the question we're going to be talking about is, who do you think Paige will announce as AJ Styles' opponent at SummerSlam? Then after that, we're going to move on to our main event, where we will talk about the question on everybody's mind this week, and then we're going to close out the show with our stars of the night. This week, the question on everyone's mind is going to be about that Andrade Cien Almas match against AJ Styles. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that booking for Andrade is going and how his time from NXT to where he was this week has changed and how it's going to be going down in the future. But we're going to talk about that much more in the main event. So now let's get to our SmackDown speed through.
Woo!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, Samoa Joe versus Ty Dillinger, confirmed alive, human, superstar, still on the main roster, not yet unemployed. Number 4, Jeff Hardy versus new United States champion Shinsuke Nakamura. 3, The Miz's eulogy for Team Hell No. Number 2, Becky Lynch beating Mandy Rose. And number 1, Andrade Cien Almas versus AJ Styles. Okay, so starting from the bottom, now we're here. Samoa Joe versus Ty Dillinger started with this weird backstage segment that involved R-Truth. Oh, I hate when it involves R-Truth. But it was actually not that bad. I thought it was going to lead to some weird tag match, and that made me very upset. But it did not. R-Truth came in and said Ty, you should smile more, and Ty thought that meant you should mess with Samoa Joe, so Ty was like, yeah, I am going to fight Samoa Joe, and then it was revealed that R-Truth was just, on Bluetooth speaking to his mom. Classic R-Truth humor. A classic R-Truth moment in storyline. But it did give us Ty Dillinger, who we haven't seen on TV in 46 years, against Samoa Joe, someone who has also been slightly shockingly absent from TV, the title scenes, all that stuff. So it was good to see. And, as quickly as you have it, then it's gone. Ty Dillinger got choked out by the Coquina Clutch. And he ended up, it was they made it look like he was going to be still kind of a strong babyface and he was going to, pass out without tapping. But instead, he got so close to passing out that the only thing he could still do was tap. So he tapped. Someday, Ty. Someday. Someday it'll be your day. But it was nice to see Samoa Joe back on the scene, looking strong, potentially a contender for AJ Styles' WWE Heavyweight Championship. You never know, but we think he could definitely be in the picture, so it was nice to see him look strong this week. Moving on to number 4, Jeff Hardy invoked his contractually obligated rematch for the United States Championship on this week's episode of SmackDown Live against Shinsuke Nakamura. Also, this is just a moment because there's even parts of this that have not made it. Like, we're not even talking about Eric Young versus Kofi Kingston, which is like a giant part of this. This SmackDown had an incredible card. Like, such a strong card. We got to see amazing teams, amazing matches. There were some great announcements, great storytelling. So just like all in all, like, watch the episode because there are things that we're not even going to get to that were amazing and very, very good. But back to this match, we're keeping to the important stuff. Hardy and Shinsuke did have their match. Jeff Hardy came out and did a little bit. He's still introducing us to this new character where he was like, I may make an entrance like Jeff Hardy. I may look like Jeff Hardy, but I don't feel like Jeff Hardy because my heart's been broken. I am incomplete without my championship. It was a very nice promo. Hardy lost his kind of southern accent of the two Hardy brothers. Jeff is definitely the one who speaks with a more of a twang. So it was a little unnerving to hear that gone. But it was a great promo. It was a good match, but the real highlight, I suppose, is that Randy Orton, classic RKO, came in to beat up Jeff Hardy and did we've got ourselves a heel Orton, folks. We've wanted it for a long, long time, and man, did we get it. And we are not short of new ideas for this heel Orton, because at some point in this match, Randy Orton's beating up Jeff Hardy, and he put his finger through the hole that is created in Jeff Hardy's ear because he wears gauges, which for anyone who doesn't know, gauges are something that you put them in like earrings, and that there's a tiny hole in the center, only instead of it being a tiny hole, you wear that gauge to expand that hole. So Jeff Hardy does have a really big slit in his ear from where he normally wears his gauges. And oh my god, Randy Orton's fingers were so deep in the hole, and they dragged it all over the place. And oh no, it was so hard to watch. And they're not dumbing it down for us with this heel Orton. Heel Randy is back. I am excited about it. And so that was the part I needed to talk about. I need some therapy about this fingers in the gauge hole, because oh no, it was a hard one, but it does leave this exciting possibility of Randy versus Jeff Hardy for anything, for fun, that I am excited about seeing move into the future. Number 3, The Miz did a eulogy for Team Hell No. God bless The Miz. The Miz is out here doing literally everything on the planet. He played in his hometown's league of their all-star softball game, or not softball, it might have been baseball, whatever. You can tell how much I watch sports, real sports. But he played, he was the MVP. Miz and Mrs. Literally airs next week. He literally has a newborn child. And he's not even involved in a feud. He's still not involved in a feud. And he's coming out here delivering the best promo work of maybe any wrestler, maybe ever. It's so good. It's so consistent. His eulogy was incredible. He continues to try to tear apart Team Hell No from the inside, saying that, Daniel Bryan was stupid to ever trust Kane. That their whole relationship was built on yes and no. It was a lie. It was, it was doomed from the start. And then Daniel Bryan's music hits, and then he came out of the crowd, which is always one of my favorite effects that a wrestler can do for surprise. Comes out of the crowd, doesn't actually get his hands on The Miz. I love that they keep teasing this but not actually giving it to us yet. It's going to be amazing when we get that Miz versus Daniel Bryan fight. And that was kind of the segment, but what an incredible segment for something that absolutely needed to be explained after Sunday that we wanted to know more about. And gosh, just who better to put it in the hands of than The Miz if you ever need someone to talk about probably anything. So excellent job, well done. And I do think it means we haven't seen the last of Team Hell No, which is something that I personally am super excited about. Just as excited almost as this next moment. So Becky Lynch had another match against Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose's entrance and effects are still incredible. Awesome. It's the best part of her character. Becky Lynch, as always, yay! Just yay. Yay is the only word I have for Becky. But came out, beat Mandy Rose with the disarmer again, which at this point I would kind of say you're like, that's kind of commonplace. How many times can we really watch this happen? Because we've seen it quite a lot recently. But what makes this particularly special is that after they gave Becky the mic, something that they literally hate to do, and Becky talked about how it is time for Becky Lynch to become the SmackDown Women's Champion again. And Paige, so it went to a backstage segment where Paige was watching this on TV. Carmella was like, ha, 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 I'm not going to defend anything against Becky Lynch, ha. And Paige was like, no, don't worry. Paige was like, hey, look at how behind Becky the crowd is. Like, they love her. So, A, you're gonna fight her. You're gonna fight her next week. Don't worry, it won't be a title match. But if Becky wins, you have to defend your championship at SummerSlam. There was a little bit of odd wording that she didn't specifically say against Becky at SummerSlam, but I do think that was the implication. I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get Becky Lynch versus Carmella, and judging on their record they've had, Becky Lynch is 100% against Carmella. So I'm very, very excited. It's nice to have that match already set up for next week. I love that it's not a title match so that we can continue to build Becky and give her momentum. I think it might be her moment again, and I love when it's Becky's moment because it literally never is. So yay, Becky. So excited. And number one, a totally surprise, unexpected match that ended up being not only incredible, but incredible for this superstar, and that is Andrade Cien Almas versus AJ Styles. So first of all, curtain puller match. They had Jeff Hardy come out and do a segment like they always do in SmackDown, segment that opens the show, sets up the main event. The match after that could have been anything. We had AJ Styles. Did we have AJ Styles come out and give a promo about how he retained? No. We just had AJ Styles, non-title, versus Andrade. A huge moment for Andrade, who, for everything that we have seen of him, the rumors said that his match with Sin Cara, if they are true, got bumped from 3 different episodes of SmackDown and relegated to live shows, to then having one particularly quick, a maybe 5-minute match against Sin Cara on the go-home show before Extreme Rules. That going so well that he then got a pre-show slot against Sin Cara at Extreme Rules, to now, this Tuesday, totally unannounced out of nowhere, having a match with the WWE Heavyweight Champion. Now, we're going to talk about this more in the main event, so I won't get too much into it, but the few things I will say, which I think go without saying, and that Tommy and I completely agree on, are really excellent match. Excellent match for Andrade. Styles sold everything. He sold really hard for Andrade, and something that obviously you guys deserve to know, Styles did win. So Styles won the match. Andrade tapped out to the calf crutcher. Zelina Vega was there. We got the Tranquilo move. The announcers did a very good job, I thought, of giving us fairly seamlessly and fairly naturally a lot of Andrade's background as far as his character is concerned. And I don't mean the bits that we know about Mexico and the Japan. I do just mean things like being he says he's Tranquilo, but he can be vicious, and Zelina Vega's there, and she's his man. They did a good job of kind of naturally building that in, because you could tell that, if you're watching it at home, you could tell by the crowd's reaction, they had no idea. They had no idea who he was. Which on some level, again, which we'll talk about later, could almost be better for the match, because it makes AJ a babyface. But again, I'm not going to waste more time on that. I'm just going to say the best moment of the night was that it happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our SmackDown Live speed through. We thought it was a great episode, a really, truly great episode of SmackDown. The storytelling was either perfectly done to set things up for next week, or it was perfectly done to explain things from Sunday, which was great. The promos that were given, we didn't have a lot of fumbling, which was amazing. They were all articulate. They went really well. They told us about characters. They set things up. Paige continues to kick ass as a general manager. Again, a match we didn't even talk about was Kofi Kingston versus Eric Young, which means as much as I feel like we've been kind of down on how NXT stars have been treated on the main roster lately, means we got to see Ty Dillinger, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke, I hesitate to say Mandy Rose, but like, why not? Let's say it. Andrade and Sanity all represented in this episode of SmackDown. That is amazing for a 2-hour show. So definitely watch it if you haven't yet. We loved it, but let us know your thoughts on social media. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on who Paige will announce next week as AJ Styles' SummerSlam opponent. They made a big announcement this week saying next week, they had a graphic and everything, that next week Paige is making a giant announcement regarding AJ Styles and SummerSlam. So the only thing that can possibly be discerned from that is that we are going to find out who that number one contender is. Or we're going to find out their path. Maybe it's a tournament. Maybe it's a gauntlet match. Maybe it's a fatal 4-way. We are going to find out how we will find that worthy number one contender next week. So let us know who you think it's going to end up being. We'll run a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours, and we're going to discuss the results here on the show next week. So let us know exactly what you think. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us. Use the hashtag hot tag, sometimes hard to say, and share your opinion and maybe have your thoughts read out on the show. Every week we read out some of our favorite responses. And speaking of responses, we're going to talk about the results of last week's topic. So last week we asked a question about Extreme Rules, and we said, for all the exhibition matches that are happening, which of those matches would be more exciting if there was a title involved, if these two groups weren't just fighting for the spar, for the grudge, but for the title. And you guys chose New Day versus Sanity. They had 42% of the vote. I think it was overwhelmingly them. The next highest was actually a tie between Reigns, Lashley, and Owen Strowman. Very interesting. I do think that the way it was set up this week, we will see New Day versus Sanity at SummerSlam. For titles? Unclear, because that means someone has to, fight the Bludgeon Brothers. And if it dies before SummerSlam, why are we still doing it? There is a chance we'll see it as a one-on-one, but I really think that the only group that is strong enough to, at this point, not just call themselves a tag team, but believably be a faction, both in number and in, talent and character individuality, is the New Day. So I would love to see them versus Sanity. I may have made a mistake when I said I think we'll see it, because I truly don't know. But I would love to see it. It seems like you guys would love to see it. So I totally agree. And my favorite comment, which I thought summed it up kind of perfectly, was Michael Pagnotti, at Pagnotti_, said, "It's sad that the New Day versus Sanity is a pre-show match." And that's true. It is sad, but I'm glad it got TV time this week. So go on Twitter, follow us, engage in the poll, and let us know what you think about the number one contender at SummerSlam for AJ Styles' WWE Heavyweight Championship. And now it's time for our main event. Today on our main event, we are talking about Andrade Cien Almas. You will note that I have said his full name almost every single time this week. Versus AJ Styles in their match this week on SmackDown Live. And specifically, we're going to be talking about what that means in terms of Andrade's booking as a character from kind of his debut on the main roster through to SummerSlam, a little bit beyond that. But we've seen some big changes in the past 2 weeks, really. And we want to kind of dive into that to talk about how we think the booking has affected that. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tommy. Tommy, say hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh, wow.
Wow, you're back.
I am.
Yet again, one more time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I tried as hard as I could not to delve too much into this in the top 5, but as you know, this was our number one moment for this week.
Oh yeah.
Because what a crazy, great thing out of nowhere.
A great surprise when turning on SDLive and it starts with Jeff Hardy being Southern, but only for a second, and using big words you never heard before, and then he says, "Have a great show, bye," and you're like, what?
Kind of like Lana only being Russian for a second.
Yeah,
and
is
then
Lana
being
not
like,
Russian anymore?
I don't know. This we also did not talk about in the top 5. I told you a lot happened in this week's episode. Lana, Aiden English weirdly like groveled to Lana for a minute.
Yeah, and he was
The
like,
reason
I screwed it over for Rusev. I feel so bad. Will you talk to him for me? Like it's middle school, and you
she
were
was
like mean to
it's
your
not
friend.
about you. It's about him. It was so weird. So that's why it didn't make it in, because nothing progressed. Like, nothing changed.
Wait, hold
it
on.
arguably didn't happen.
The number one moment of the week wasn't Lana is now American.
I know.
Not Russian.
I know. But also, back to this actual real main event, not this sub main event. Yes. So it was a great surprise. And I think part of it is like that key of it being a surprise.
Yeah.
Because the first time that we saw Andrade
Mm-hmm.
have a real match, a match against a known opponent,
Mm-hmm.
was literally last week. And
Have
he
we
went
really never seen a singles match on SmackDown with him before that point?
I think we've saw. So if I'm correct, we've seen one. And
Yeah,
it
against,
was
like,
a
Ty
jobber match.
Dillinger or
No, I think
something?
it was a true jobber. Like, I think it was
Wow.
literally a house show guy that we've never seen before
Cool.
versus Andrade. We still have yet to see Zelina Vega get involved at all, which I'm glad that they're saving, because that's
Yeah.
another heel element and things like that. So she's very much so just eye candy at the moment.
Yeah,
like,
they-
for
they
lack of a more appropriate word.
Absolutely. They saved her getting involved in NXT, and that made for that moment where she actually like did that kick-ass Hurricane Rana that she does, head scissors, like so good and so out of nowhere and so unexpected. Like you kind of forget because she's so good as like truly just as an actor, that the moment that she does anything physical, you're like, oh shit, all right,
Yeah.
damn.
But yeah, so we haven't seen her do anything yet. She hasn't even, like, Paul Heyman'd it up yet. She has
Yeah.
not even done that. So she's truly, at this moment in time, just eye candy. We've seen, to my knowledge, 3 television matches. One versus True Jobber. One versus Sin Cara last week.
Yeah.
And one this week versus AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on that booking?
Well, that's a huge ascension in a very small amount of time. Like,
LOL.
yeah,
Ascension.
right. Rest in peace, their push or anything that ever was a modicum of a push. Yeah, it's been really amazing to see. They kind of held off at first. They he debuted right after WrestleMania after losing the title, had that jobber match, and was kind of not around because his planned opponent Sin Cara was injured. So he like beat him up backstage one time, and then it was like 5 weeks before we saw him again. It's really cool to see where he is right now, because this spot of wrestling kind of someone who's really, really far above you, but in a position where you really have a huge fighting chance and get really, really close, get a couple of really solid near falls, and have your opponent sell for you. We haven't really seen since there was that big stretch last year, not a big stretch, but 2-week stretch where Jason Jordan went up against Roman Reigns and John Cena before, I think it was Battleground that they took on each other last year. And in losing efforts against both of them, he cemented himself as someone not to be messed with just in the ring. Like he as a character had his own faults and quirks and issues here and there, but Jason Jordan from that went on to be a tag team champion.
Oh yeah, and was booked. You could tell, like, was preliminarily booked in a great WrestleMania feud.
Absolutely.
Against Seth Rollins, someone openly determined as the future of the company.
Absolutely.
So, like, an amazing, an amazing place to be, an amazing push, and an amazing rise to stardom from one half of American Alpha.
Absolutely. And it's, also rest in peace the push of our favorite friend, Chad Gable.
My literal
Super
favorite.
Underrated.
Just an incredible wrestler.
But
so sad.
Yeah. But back to Andrade a little bit, is that that is kind of what happened with Andrade this week, is he got that chance to take on someone super above him and in a losing effort show his stuff. And this is really exciting, as you and I are both fans of Andrade after what he did in NXT, and just the quality of in-ring work has been fantastic. And that match was the best SmackDown TV match since the last one Andrade had on TV last week against Sin Cara. It is interesting to see where he is going and how he's kind of changing the tone of SmackDown, because SmackDown is slowly but surely, with these NXT stars, former indie stars coming in and getting big spots, it's becoming like the wrestlers show almost. Like, if Raw is for big personalities and epic storylines, SmackDown is becoming like the place for really high quality in-ring work.
Yeah, which is amazing. And also, I think there's something to be said for, like, when we look at, like, the details of the matches, I think there's some very smart decisions being made, whether or not super pre-planned or pre-planned like that day, and it's just happened to work really well. But I think that looking specifically from last week to this week, keeping the Sin Cara match short, like particularly short, plays to both of their advantages in being high-flying, fast-paced, quick-moving athletes. But I think that really opened up the opportunity for them to say, like, we're not sick of it, we want more, to get that on the pre-show.
Yeah.
And then with the AJ Styles match, something that I think is truly amazing, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are like, it's his job, like, that's why he does it. But AJ Styles sold that match impeccably well, but, like, B, really hard. Like, he looked more tired after this match than he did after his pay-per-view match title defense against Rusev.
Absolutely.
It looked like it took a lot more out of him. They let Andrade get in, I would say 85-90% of the offense.
Definitely.
All came from Andrade, which, again, an excellent move when you're booking. And I do think all of those things, obviously, were pretty planned in that way. But the selling, I also think a kind of unexpected favor that it did was, right now in SmackDown, there's no top fighting heel that's a singles competitor. There are top heels like The Miz, who are giant talkers, who he doesn't have the IC championship, so it's a little bit lost, and until he's in a feud that feels worth his time, I totally understand why they're not just like putting him in random matches, because why potentially weaken him or bury someone else that way. But like, he's a top heel, he's not really being used. Samoa Joe, absolutely the person I would say comes the closest at the moment, like a total killer, but again, hasn't really been on TV a lot recently. Hasn't been in title contention.
He hasn't been on for like the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, so can you call him a top heel if they're not there every week? Like, that gives me a little bit of pause. Then you have Rusev, who's a half heel because can't be a full face for some reason and yet completely cheered all the time. Yeah. So like, doesn't really work, but was
has
our
no
most recent
heat.
Exactly.
No
and then
heat.
And then you've got Shinsuke Nakamura, who I would say was their like latest attempt at being a top heel, and honestly, I think it's working way more now in the U.S. title thing, because now that we've seen him move on to a different feud, I think we can say the low blow is his thing, and that's like, it's interesting to see that carried on from place to place, especially now since he has a belt. Yeah. But that's kind of it. I mean, now you could say with the return of Orton, it is Orton. Like, Orton is the top heel. But in that WWE like championship picture, we haven't had a really clear top heel the way that we have that clear top babyface, who is AJ Styles. Yeah. And I know that people would say like, oh, it'll change from time to time, but when you really think about it, like, on Raw, if there's a heel champion, there are always top baby faces. And if there's a top babyface champion, there are always heel challengers. Like, and you know who those people are going to be. You know who's in that fatal 4-way before they, like, announce it. Yeah, like those 2 3-man, those 2 triple threat matches at the beginning and end of Raw this week. Like, every single one of those guys. Absolutely. Totally. But we've been lacking that, like, presence on SmackDown a little bit. It hasn't quite worked. And I think that in this match particularly, they are definitely billing Andrade as like a heel. Yes. But I think something that was really interesting is because nobody knew him, it wasn't the normal, AJ Styles, Nakamura, or AJ Styles, Rusev Day. It was AJ Styles, clap, 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 clap. Yeah. And when you have that kind of power, not just behind your babyface, but behind your babyface champion, it lets him sell that much harder because he doesn't look weak. They just want him to win.
Yeah.
They just want him to win, and they're gonna pop. So as long as Andrade taps out to that calf crusher, you are golden. The championship looks good. Your champion looks good. He can be injured, and all that selling, that after match selling that AJ does, just continues to build Andrade for the next thing, which was an amazing, I think, effect that couldn't really have been anticipated, because you never know. I mean, for where they were, I'm sure they have obviously a better sense of the demographic, but it's not like when they're in Brooklyn and everyone's like, I watch NXT, I know Andrade, so I want him to succeed. This was like he had to prove himself, and I think it did create that really wonderful booking balance of him proving himself without at all weakening or damaging the champion or the belt.
Absolutely. Within like maybe so Andrade's had 3 matches in the last 8 days, and they've kind of cemented what his sort of signature move / finisher is, which is that double knees to your face from running across from the opposite corner of the ring. Obviously the hammerlock DDT, and then there's the double stomp to the chest while they're hanging off the top rope. I mean, he's been hitting these moves, and the commentators have been really putting him over in terms of his move set, putting over Zelina Vega, as someone who's really smart and knows what she's doing and knows how to work with a talent like Andrade. This match was so perfectly structured for kind of reintroducing someone onto the scene as someone to really notice in a feud with someone like Sin Cara, who has a large legacy, but one that is not one that's going to like slingshot Andrade to the top. This is the sort of match that he needs and that SmackDown needs in cementing a top heel contender for the WWE Championship. I mean, you guys will vote as much as you want next week and this week for who Paige will announce as AJ Styles' #1 contender. The fact is, before last night, before SmackDown Live, no one would have said Andrade, but they would have hoped it. The point of booking and the reason that the booking of this match was so good is now you could totally say Andrade, and I would be like, hell yeah, makes sense. Like the way that AJ Styles was selling post-match when the referee was holding his arm up with the championship, like obviously it was a non-title match, but he was bruised, he was broken, he was out of breath. The fact is, I haven't seen AJ Styles sell that much for anyone in a really long time.
Yeah, which on some level I think is important for maintaining that he's a strong champion.
Absolutely.
But I think it does add so much to this match. I think another moment that is very important to this match in that post-match phase is they had Andrade kind of circle back, and I know you kind of turned to me and you're like, do you think they're going to shake hands? And I think it's very poignant that he like stared him down, didn't, and left. And we got to see that part of his character that not a lot of characters get to show, but which is that like emotional, competitive disappointment that comes from like your deep core in that heel character that says like it wasn't enough to like it was not just an honorable fight, it was not just enough to fight you and say that was enough. Like I wanted to win and I need to win, and I'm not happy with you and I'm not happy with myself, and I won't be. It
was a very cerebral thing. I mean, Andrade is obviously limited by his ability to speak English, which is effectively non-existent, or if it is, they just don't use him speaking at all. But it is those moments, those small looks, those blink and you'll miss them moments that really enhance the mystique behind a character and makes them truly interesting because it makes them human. I mean, it is in wrestling, it is those human moments that engage us the most. Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa is an amazing feud because it is a couple of people with human feelings. One who feels betrayed by one for not being able to pull their weight and bring them to success, and the other for like, hey, you threw me over a table a bunch of times. That's not nice. I'm really mad at you now. And creating those human moments of like, I am disappointed in myself. I blame you. I didn't have it this time, but just you wait for next time, all in one look. That's everything you need to create truly a character who can go anywhere from here after a showing like that. And it's hard to say that in a lot of circumstances when someone comes off a loss. Like, where does Rusev go?
Mm-hmm.
Into a feud with Aiden English as Aiden English and Lana fight over Rusev?
That's
like,
just it. Like, the new feud's Aiden versus Lana.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even on TV.
And, like, Shinsuke went from the main event scene. He lost many, many times, and he's now U.S. champion. You see people having to be shuffled around, but Andrade, he can go anywhere. When you lose, you go down, and that's usually how it goes, but not after a match like that.
No, after a match like that, I think you're totally right, has every door ahead of him open.
Absolutely. That door was closed in his face, but every window is open.
But something that I would like to do in the last couple minutes as we wrap up, what do you think would be the most effective way for them to continue this really kind of cool sudden momentum with Andrade moving forward? I know that, like, for me, you know, I don't think, but to be fair at this point, which is cool that they did this in this match, but, like, I don't know. I don't think we'll see Andrade fight AJ Styles at SummerSlam. If you ask me personally at this moment in time, I think we're going to see Samoa Joe, and that's fine. It's not my favorite thing, but it's fine with me. But, like, I would love to see Andrade win Andrade keep this up and then win a championship because Zelina Vega interferes. But in my mind, what a cool thing to see Zelina Vega interfere, do that Hurricane Rana head scissors, and have her be, in that moment, the very competent and athletic female James Ellsworth.
Oh,
and have the woman be the reason that he takes the WWE championship.
What a great foil to Carmella and James Ellsworth.
Like, that would be an amazing moment for me.
Yeah, what a classic, like, early 2000s gimmick in Carmella and Ellsworth. Something that's super outdated despite the fact that it's only, like, 2 years old as compared to Zelina Vega and Andrade turning a very classic girl supporting a boy into girl doing the shit to make the boy win. Yeah,
and to be like Zelina Vega took AJ Styles heavyweight championship, like, insane.
I love it.
What about you? Do you have any thoughts on how you'd like to see them proceed with this?
I would love to see Andrade go up against like a returning legend type. I think going forward, I mean, it would be amazing to see him announced as a number one contender, or if Paige is just announcing like a triple threat or something, or some sort of tournament to crown a number one contender. I have a feeling she's just going to announce somebody like a Samoa Joe or a Miz or an Andrade, but and that could totally happen. I think like a returning John Cena. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see John Cena turn up and be like, hey, your shit's been good. I've seen you the last couple weeks. You went up against AJ Styles. You took him to the limit. He took me to the limit a couple years ago at SummerSlam and beat me. You couldn't do that. Like, that's kind of a built-in feud around SummerSlam because that's like always been John Cena's like big stage. God, he could go up against Hogan. Hogan's backstage reinstated, even though people who say the N-word, they can still be in the WWE Hall of Fame, just have to be suspended for a couple years. What an interesting thing. Yeah, all of you guys, like, go up and look up all this stuff with Titus O'Neil, because Terry Bollea was backstage at Extreme Rules and apologized to everyone, and everyone was like, yo, Titus, are you okay with this? And he's like, no, and here's why. Always a fascinating read. But I think you could totally see Andrade go up against a legend type, and that's where I'd like to see him go. After a showing like that, there aren't really top faces who aren't kind of moving into their segments for SummerSlam. We see the Miz moving in to take Daniel Bryan kind of and go do their thing.
Something I'll give you is one last hot tag.
Yeah.
As it just hits me. I would love to see Andrade versus Dean at SummerSlam.
Oh my gosh.
Andrade Cien Almas versus a returning Dean Ambrose.
Holy.
I would love it.
Here's the thing. It could be Dean returning next week.
See?
That could be Paige's announcement.
Hey, you will have to tune in to see. But it's so exciting that SmackDown has created this buzz.
Absolutely. SmackDown's not been this good in quite a long time.
Quite a while, and I'm very pleased.
Everything's kind of coming to a head right now. They're using those NXT call-ups the right way, pulling the trigger on Daniel Bryan and Miz, and God, it's about time that Dean comes back. And if he comes back heel against AJ, ooh.
We got a lot of things to look forward to. So that has been our main event. We can't wait. Why can't I read? To hear any thoughts that you guys might have. So tweet at us. And now we're gonna finish the show the way that we do every week with our stars of the night.
Our number 3 star of the night this week is The Miz, coming off that hot MVP trophy from the whatever softball game thing he did last week that no one watched, cared about, or knew happened. And then people were shouting, chanting MVP for the well-known former WWE superstar MVP. Let's hope he comes back for SummerSlam. The Miz held this eulogy for Team Hell No, and as with all good heel promos, completely based in fact. Kane and Daniel Bryan have had a very contentious relationship. They were unsuccessful. We did not see Kane last night on SmackDown Live because I guess he needs to go and become the mayor of some town in Tennessee. But he has been not fighting for about 5-6 weeks, and he has consistently been the best talker and still remains relevant despite the fact that he's been on the outside of some feuds, keeping them going by stirring the pot. It's finally time for The Miz to re-enter the fray in the literal sense and start fighting again. That promo right before he called out Daniel Bryan was truly electric. He was so engaging. His delivery was killer. It was just like that legendary Talking Smack promo from a few years ago. That might have been the first episode of Talking Smack, and it was just so very good. This promo harkened back to that, and we see The Miz going forward in this feud. Finally, we've been waiting with Daniel Bryan, hopefully at SummerSlam and moving forward. Next up, our number 2 star of the night is Becky Lynch, winning her 25th match in a row against someone we don't really care about beyond their entrance, beating Mandy Rose center of the ring, even though Mandy Rose had someone in her corner who didn't care enough to help her win. Becky cut a promo after her match saying, you know what, it's been long enough. It's time for Becky Balboa to head up the mountain one more time, and we've all been waiting for this moment. Charlotte moving to SmackDown was a big thing because it kind of supplanted Becky Lynch for a long, long time. But it's her time to shine. Everyone's excited for it. I'm excited for it. And most importantly, Paige is excited for it and I think is going to give us the match at SummerSlam. And our number 1 star of the night, as you may have guessed, Andrade Cien Almas, in a losing effort against the WWE champion AJ Styles, showed us everything he's got in his arsenal, save for saving that one ace in the hole that he always has in his corner, Zelina Vega, for another day. We got to see everything Andrade Cien Almas is about. He's about having an electric presence, having engaging, quality in-ring work, selling and fighting truly like a champion. And that's what he did this week in the surprise curtain puller on SmackDown Live. Andrade has everything in front of him. He could go anywhere on the card and he would be just a boon to whichever feud he finds himself in. He's exactly the kind of heel that SmackDown Live needs, and that is why he is our number 1 star of the night. Andrade, you deserve it. That'll do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro, and subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn. I actually like Castro for my podcast, so you can look up Castro if you're an iOS user. Isn't that interesting, Taryn?
Yeah, but are we on Castro?
Yeah, it just links up. Yeah, you can totally get it. We're on there.
Oh,
That's
cool.
how I listen to it.
Then get Castro.
Yeah, it's awesome. And this is from this final message, final sign-off from your Tag Me In Bro heavyweight champions, tying this week for our predictions for Extreme Rules, still keeping those beautiful belts as I imagine them in my brain around our way. Yep, that's us. That
It's
is
our battle
our
cry.
yes, battle cry. We scare everyone from miles away. They run away. They don't want to talk to us. Haha.
But they do want to listen to our podcast.
Yes, they do, and you know where to listen to it. You know where to find us on Twitter, and we're always eager to hear what you have to say about this week's SmackDown Live, so tell it to us at TagMeAndBro on Twitter. For Team Less Little, Less Big, I'm Tommy Rowe. She's Taryn O'Connor. Goodbye, universe.